Hey y'all, welcome back. Today we're checking out how Echo and the Bunnymen and God wrote The Killing Moon, no British canon.
Stuck between the studied indie of the Smiths and the stadium-bothering rock of U2, Echo and the Bunnymen were one of a kind. Shackled with one of the oddest names in post-punk, yet adored by the UK music press, their psychedelic, doom-infused first 3 albums set them up as one of the most exciting bands in Britain, with singles like Rescue, A Promise and The Cutter slowly gaining them higher chart placings and a more rabid fanbase. But on the cusp of the mainstream, with the potential to be the biggest band of the 80s, they went to France, changed their sound, and put all their faith in a song their singer heard in a dream. This is New British Canon, and this is the story of The Killing Moon.
Wow. This seems like it might be fascinating. Y'all, I remember hearing about Echo and the Bunnymen from an interview with the guitarist from the Smashing Pumpkins, James Iha, but he mentioned the name and I thought it was a joke. Oh, I think they were talking about the name Smashing Pumpkins. And Echo and the Bunnymen came up because it's a similar kind of weird name. I've never heard The Killing Moon as far as I know. I don't know what Echo and the Bunnymen sound like. Anyway, let's check out Echo and the Bunnymen, y'all. Liverpool, okay. Echo and the Liverpool New Wave, 1978 to 81, The Crucial 3, Crocodiles and Overcoats, song The Pictures on My Wall, zoo version, Echo and the Bunnymen. Whatever I just heard sounded really good, sonically. A really nice acoustic guitar, little bass, little clave.
Echo and the Bunnymen started in Liverpool in 1978. Initially, the group consisted of Ian McCulloch on vocals, Will Sargent on guitar, Les Patterson on bass, and a Korg Mini Pops Jr. of drum machine, which legend, but not the band, has assigned the name Echo. Our name was always intended to be funny. The Bunnymen was the funniest name. It was meant to deflate all that meaningful name thing.
Echo is the drum machine. That's brilliant. I love that. I didn't know that. I wish I thought of that. Damn it. What a great idea. I got what was that piece of equipment? I want one. Korg Mini Pops Jr. I don't know anything about that. Oh, that's it. Let's check on reverb. Okay. Oh, how much can I get one for? $384. It would be nice, but I don't feel like spending $400 on it. Okay. It has all the different styles of beats, tempo, volume, and a start trigger. Why is the waltz red? Its name is Echo. I love that. I knew a dog named Echo. I think he passed away by now.
Will Sargent on guitar, Les Patterson on bass, and a Korg Mini Pops Jr. of drum machine, which legend, but not the band, has assigned the name Echo. Our name was always intended to be funny. The Bunnymen was the funniest name. It was meant to deflate all that meaningful name thing. Spurned on by the punk movement, and especially local group Big in Japan, the Bunnymen sound was indebted to the alternative 60s.
There's a group called Big in Japan? As in, we're big in Japan? Really? That's clever too. Why did I think of that? Big in Japan is an expression that can be used to describe Western musical groups who achieve success in Japan but not necessarily other parts of the world. Okay, so that was a thing a lot earlier than I thought it was. I thought maybe it came around in the late 80s, but okay, wow.
The likes of Velvet Underground, Leonard Cohen, Love, and The Doors. McCulloch in particular had seen his future in the shock red mullet of Ziggy Stardust, performing Starman on Top of the Pops.
There's a starman waiting in the sky.
I only ever wanted, since the age of 13, to be the best singer of the best band in the world. McCulloch had previously been in a group called The Crucial 3, with Julian Cope and Pete Wiley. They lasted 6 weeks before splitting, yet their members would all become pivotal. Cope would form the Teardrop Explodes, and Wiley the Mighty Wah. These groups, alongside OMD, and later Frankie Goes to Hollywood and Dead or Alive, would form the Liverpool new wave scene. The Bunnymen's first show was supporting the Teardrop Explodes at Eric's in Liverpool. But their drum machine malfunctioned and began throwing a fit.
Oh,
Will
wow.
was on his knees going, "It's not working." I was like, "It's my first time, and your drum machine's fucking crap. Come on, get those ohms and watts going." It could have been embarrassing. There were about 70 people there. I just stood there and looked at them. After about 10 minutes, the drum machine started, and we were off running. People were spellbound. We were in our flow. No, honestly, we were.
That may have felt like 10 minutes to him, but it was probably 30 seconds. Get them ohms and watts going. These three guys were in a band together, and then they started other bands that were really influential in the the Liverpool new wave scene. The Teardrop Explodes and the Mighty Wah. Oh, Frankie Goes to Hollywood's from Liverpool. I didn't realize that. So the first show was supporting Teardrop Explodes. Okay, so they were supporting one of their friends' bands. Echo didn't work. Echo was throwing a fit. Echo didn't feel like playing. So he had this moment of terror, and apparently people loved it. People were spellbound. They were in their flow. Wow. Good work, Ian.
Through gigs around Liverpool, they caught the attention of Bill Drummond, former guitarist for Big in Japan, future member of the KLF. But in 1978, he was just looking for some bands to manage. In May 1979...
Wait. I'm sorry, back that up. Bill Drummond, former guitarist
for Big in Japan.
Okay. And he later became KLF. The KLF, I think, was that two guys? Okay. Wow. It's connecting. I reacted to the KLF, I think, on my other reaction channel, JJLA Reacts. Just reacting to British music, because they're British.
Future member of the KLF. But in 1978, he was just looking for some bands to manage. In May 1979, Echo and the Bunnymen released their first single, The Pictures on My Wall, on Drummond's Zoo label. It did.
Wow. Okay. That sounded like it was made in the mid-60s. The organ.
It didn't make the UK pop charts, but it went number 24 on the indie chart and earned them a session on The John Peel Show. They signed Corova after Seymour Steiner's Sire, and Rob Dickens of Warner Brothers caught the group playing a battle of the bands. But there was...
I'm sorry, they signed to who? They were signed to Corova after these guys from Sire and Warner Brothers caught what?
And Rob Dickens of Warner Brothers caught the group playing a battle of the bands. But there was one stipulation, that the group trashed the drum machine and replaced it with a flesh and blood one. Pete DeFreitas took its place. Their first pop charting single would follow in May 1980.
Won't you come on down to my...
Rescue making its way to number 62 in the UK charts. But its parent album, Crocodiles, released 2 months later, would go top 20. Already the band were showing their ability to create an incredible sense of drama and aiming for an absolutely huge textured sound. Said Crocodiles producer Ian Brody, later of the Lightning Seeds. Separately, what they're playing didn't seem that great, but somehow when the four of them touched together, it ignited the blue paper. You could say to them, play A to D. They'd all join in and play A to D, and it would just sound great. The four of them created some kind of chemical reaction. Being in the post-punk bubble, there were comparisons with Joy Division, Bauhaus, and Public Image Limited. The doom that pervaded Crocodiles, joined with McCulloch's sonorous voice, cryptic lyrics, and expertly disheveled hair, became a trademark. The group's overcoated attire, suiting their rain-soaked sound. 1981's Heaven Up Here would continue their upward trajectory. Remaining in...
Okay, wow. Yeah, the hair. He has the David Bowie hair, right? He figured it out. Separately, what they're playing didn't seem that great, but somehow when the four of them touched together, it ignited the blue paper. They just fit together, I guess. Sometimes that happens. Like Paul McCartney playing with Ringo Starr. They both kind of push and pull in the same amount. Like all of their, eighth notes, like 1 and 2 and 3 and 4 and 1. The and of and 1 is like a little bit ahead, but they both did it. They both did a little bit, so it just feels like intentional. Same with these guys, they just complemented each other nicely. He's singing in that style that seemed to become really popular in the early 80s. That guy from Dexy's Midnight Runners sang that way. The guy from Duran Duran sang that way. Bono even sort of sang that way. Who else? Oh gosh, there's a lot of them. That kind of, I can't even, I don't want to, if I try to do it, it's going to sound like I'm making fun. But they all had a similar style of
The
voice.
group's overcoated
right?
attire, suiting their rain-soaked sound. 1981's Heaven Up Here would continue their upward trajectory. Remaining in the UK album chart longer and climbing higher, reaching number 10. The Bunnymen had
Nice.
converted the NME readers, but were the top of the pops crowd ready for them?
Okay. Wow, they're on their way, it looks like. What could possibly go wrong? Echo and the Pop Breakthrough, 1982 to 83, Porcupine, The Outer, Hebrides, and U2, Song, The Cutter, Echo and the Bunnymen. Really, it's just the Bunnymen now, right? Echo's gone. They kicked him out.
By 1983, under Drummond's cultish supervision, Echo and the Bunnymen were going from strength to strength, but the musical climate was shifting. Their doomy peers had moved on. New Order had just released Blue Monday, and firmly set their allegiance with all things disco.
How does it feel?
83.
Feel like you do.
Bauhaus broke up, and Public Image Limited had their biggest pop hit with This Is Not a Love Song. While the Sisters of Mercy were on the horizon, the Bunnymen ended up as the last great northern doomy band. Post-punk groups with their eyes on stadiums, bands like Simple Minds, Big Country and U2, were latching upon their impressive sound, utilizing copious reverb guitars, massive drums and booming vocals, and started having their own success.
Never stop. Shine on, shine the light on me.
McCulloch resented
Kind of forget how, like, punkish you two actually are. In that context, I hear they sound more rockin'. The Simple Minds guy, he had one of those voices. Right?
Shine on, shine the light on me.
McCulloch resented this and used every interview opportunity to lay into them. Bono, Nobbo, that's his fucking name. What
Oh,
gibbering
come on.
leprechaunish twat. He's up to no good. McCulloch's digs at his contemporaries and affection for overstatement earned him the nickname Mac the Mouth. He would later reflect on his interview technique. I hate being called arrogant, but when I've said stuff like, I'm a genius, or I'm the son of God, it was only supposed to be funny. I said those things as a way of taking control of boring interviews. Now I think it's made us look like a narrow version of what we're capable of. What they were capable of was realigned with 1983's intense and complicated Porcupine album.
That kind of attitude. I guess it's good for press, but I don't know. It makes me not root for him, you know?
What they were capable of was realigned with 1983's intense and complicated Porcupine album, featuring longer songs with frequent passages of unrelenting bleakness. Amid intermittent
wow. Ooh, yeah. I mean, that's beautiful, but maybe that's not what the charts needed.
amid intermittent psychedelic freakouts. McCulloch's wails were more desperate than ever to be heard over the cacophony. Even their singles, Back of Love and The Cutter, the rare moments of almost levity, feature psycho string stabs, strangled violin hooks, and noise rock swells. It showed the band in a bad place, not helped by Drummond and their label forcing the band to record it twice, as the first version was too uncommercial.
Then what were we just hearing? Were we hearing the uncommercial version or the commercial version? I feel like there's a place on albums for what I just heard, those samples. These samples sounded ahead of their time to me. This is 83. What I was hearing sounded more like 87, maybe? Yeah, I'm curious to know if what we just heard was the commercial or the uncommercial, you know?
It showed the band in a bad place, not helped by Drummond and their label forcing the band to record it twice, as the first version was too uncommercial. Their mood matched the music inside. The first two records were done with a lot more naivety. With Porcupine, we questioned what we were doing for the first time, whether it was right or not. The composition of the music was the first thing, and from there we went on to question our abilities in writing of songs, or, well, why we were even doing it basically. Nothing seems so intuitive as it used to, and I always thought it had to be intuitive. And yet...
Okay, nothing seems so intuitive as it used to. Oh, that sucks. That sucks. Probably started overthinking things. There was probably a lot more pressure on them, so they were probably writing songs for this album instead of, writing a song, and then when it comes time to make an album, you have these songs already. It's probably a lot of pressure. Isn't that weird how that works? I was just at a stand-up comedy show last night. It was great. It was this person, person's name is Robbie Hoffman. She's so funny. And it was a kind of stand-up show at this tiny little 50-seat theater, and just trying out material, super cheap, was $12. Bunch of different comics, but she in particular, she was trying out new material, and she said to the person in the back, "Hey, are we recording this?" The person in the back said, "No, but we can." And she said, "As soon as I ask you to start recording this, I'm not going to want anything that I said." She was just riffing, There's something about that, the intent of what it's being used for can sometimes stop the flow of that feeling of things just flowing through you, the channeling, when you're suddenly like, we're going to use this to make money. It like stops. Isn't that weird?
And yet, it was their most chart-successful album ever, peaking at number 2 in the UK. Out of the bands that formed out of the Crucial Three, the Bunnymen were the last to...
That's even more of a mind isn't it? They're like, they're like stumbling through this album, and then it's the best they ever did. Wow. Peaking at number 2. That's huge.
Intuitive.
Wow.
And yet, it was their most chart-successful album ever, peaking at number 2 in the UK. Out of the bands that formed out of the Crucial Three, the Bunnymen were the last to get a top 10 single. The Teardrop Explodes got to number 6 with Reward in early 1981.
I'm sorry, I zoned out for a second. This is 83. Oh, they were the last of that group.
Number 2 in the UK. Out of the bands that formed out of the Crucial Three, the Bunnymen were the last to get a top 10 single.
Okay.
The Teardrop Explodes got to number 6 with Reward in early 1981. In January 1983, the Mighty Wah's Story of the Blues peaked at number 3. And in February the same year, The Cutter made it to number 8.
Conquering myself until I see another hurdle approaching.
The Bunnymen appeared on the same episode of Top of the Pops as then admirers U2, who were there due to New Year's Day's top 10 placing. Instead of jumping on this opportunity to increase their venue sizes and monopolize on this success, The Bunnymen played Iceland and the isolated Outer Hebrides of Scotland on advice from their manager, under the pretense that the locations of those shows were positioned on spiritual ley lines that would somehow benefit the band further. Drummond also felt the band should break up, as he had suggested that a truly great group should not outlast their welcome, and 5 years was the perfect lifespan. While the Bunnymen didn't want to call time just yet, they felt a change was needed. We'd become this rock band, having hits where people said we were going to be bigger than the biggest group of our generation. And I just thought, sod it, let's go on a tangent. Let's do something that these bastards wouldn't think of in a million years.
Okay. Their manager wants them to break up. If that's the same KLF guy I'm thinking of, he also burnt $1 million in cash. Literally, set it on fire. £1 million, excuse me. The ley lines thing is interesting. I've never heard that before. I've heard of ley lines, but I don't know what, how that would help you write songs. You know? Maybe it did. Maybe that's what we're getting to. Okay. Echo and the Killing Moon, 1983 to 84, Space Odyssey, Paris and David Lord. Song The Killing Moon, Peel Session, Echo and the Bunnymen. Okay. For my American friends, getting on the John Peel radio show is a big deal. I guess I was proved wrong with that album doing well. I guess hard work made it better. Hard, grueling, left brain, logical work made it better, apparently. Anyway, moving on. Echo and the Killing Moon. I already said that.
The Killing Moon was the first track assembled for album number 4, what would become Ocean Rain. It and the album in general was a decisive left turn, away from the established and commercially successful sound present on Porcupine. We'd all been given acoustic guitars by Washburn, and we're all playing around with them. So the album was heading to a more acoustic world. I was going over to Mac's house. We had a 4-track there, and we were just coming up with riffs and chord sequences and stuff like that. The Killing Moon was one of them, and it just sort of developed.
Way to go, Washburn. That's good marketing. Acoustic guitar.
The spark of The Killing Moon had been a moment of divine intervention. Its chorus coming to McCulloch in a dream. I didn't pore over it for days on end. One morning I sat bolt upright in bed, with this line in my head. You don't dream things like that and remember them. That's why I've always half credited the lyric to God. It's never happened before or since.
I like the melody and the chord progression under it too. It's like, I gotta hear it again.
The spark of The Killing Moon had been a moment of divine in days on end. You don't dream.
I love that interval. It's makes me a little uncomfortable, but in like a fun, creepy way. You know?
Things like that and remember them. The initial chord sequence for the verses was taken from David Bowie's Space Oddity, played in reverse order.
Okay.
Instead of ground control to major tone, I went. And thereby, I created the greatest song ever written.
After continued experimentation.
Wow. Can I tell when he's playing? Hang on. Let me get a guitar. So he's going E minor to C, I think. Right? So Space Odyssey is... C to E minor. He made it E minor to C. Which I guess is like flat 5? Sharp 4? Flat 5. Call me Rick Beato.
After continued experimentation, the song ended up sounding little like its calling point, but its echoey, eerie atmosphere and space theme remained, if only for its references to blue moons and starlit skies.
Under blue moon I saw you. In starlit nights I saw you.
Though McCulloch had wanted Bowie to produce the album, they instead ended up with assistance from David Lord, just off working on the Icicle Works self-titled LP. Though most of the
That sounds huge. Huge and smooth. What's this guy's name again? David Lord, record producer. David Lord, look at the lad. Look at the lad. Peter Gabriel, the Corgis, and XTC. What about Echo and the Bunnymen? What about Echo and the Bunnymen? In 2015, Lord was convicted of keeping a brothel after admitting making bookings and taking money for sex workers operating from his home. Noting there was no coercion involved, he was given a suspended prison sentence, made subject to a 7 p.m. to 7 a.m. curfew for 4 months, and made to wear an electronic tag. Well, David Lord, everyone. Give him a call.
Icicle Works self-titled LP.
It sounds good.
Though most of The Killing Moon was recorded in Crescent Studios in Bath, vocals and extra instrumentation were recorded in Paris, France, calling back to their initial experiments in orchestration from 1982's Back of Love.
Hang on, one of these studios. Crescent Studios in Bath. Show me all of that. Crescent Studio. Okay, what's the deal? Oh, got a place to put your rubbish? I guess this is it. Oh, that looks recording studio-ish. Oh, okay. I guess it's been turned into a home.
The Bunnymen employed a 35-piece orchestra to achieve the widescreen sound they had always been searching for. The twangy, disjointed guitar riff that opens The Killing Moon was absent from demo versions of the track.
Acoustic.
This was
Yeah, they were all under their acoustic guitars, right?
This was a studio invention. It was just something I did when we were tuning up. Then we went out for a curry, and when we came back, producer David Lord had looped it up and punched it back in. We all thought it sounded great. I spent the next 20 odd years trying to remember how I did it.
So I think what they mean by the producer looping it up and punching it back in is he probably recorded it onto another tape machine and then played it on that tape machine back to the original to put that guitar in a different spot. You know what I mean? Now you just go on your computer and you go, just grab it and drop it. Stuff back then. Probably took them an hour back then.
McCulloch soon found working with Lord to be untenable and abandoned The Killing Moon. David Lord was a load of crap and a tosser, the most unaptly named bastard you could meet. It was all going wrong, so I went to the boozer with cellist Adam Peters. Then I got a bad cold. The others suggested I re-sing it when we got back to Liverpool, but I said, I'm not doing it. It's ruined.
Yeah, okay. David Lord was a load of crap and a tosser. The most unaptly named bastard you could meet. His name's Lord. Isn't that Lord? Interesting. Yeah. Also, come to find out he was running a brothel.
Liverpool, but I said, I'm not doing it. It's ruined. When they did get back home, De Freitas was the one to convince McCulloch that the track was worth another shot. After re-drumming with brushes instead of sticks, realigning it with McCulloch and or God's vision, he would re-record his vocals at Amazon Studios in Kirkby, under the watchful eye of future Pixies producer Gil Norton.
Oh, I love that chord progression, y'all. Gil Norton is a very talented and well-known producer. He worked with the Foo Fighters also? I've looked him up on here before. Pixies, Echo and the Bunnymen, Foo Fighters, Tribe, Jimmy Eat World, Dashboard Confessor, Feeder, The Distillers, Maximo Park, Counting Crows, Terrorvision, The Drift of Delamitri, and others I've never heard of. Continue, yes.
Instrumentally, The Killing Moon was inspired by a trip to Russia that Sargent and Patterson went on just before the album sessions. We went to Leningrad, then this place called Kazan, where nobody from outside Russia had been since 1943 or something. We went to a museum full of tractor parts, and this very strange party organised by the young communists. But there was a lot of music, and we came back full of ideas of Russian balalaika bands, which Les used for the middle of the song, this rumbling mandolin-style bass thing. All in all, the song is this...
Wow, Leningrad. We went to a museum full of tractor parts and this very strange party organized by the young communists. But there was a lot of music, and we came back full of ideas of Russian balalaika bands. Yay. I've only ever heard that word in the Beatles song Back to the USSR. I don't really know what it is. Balalaka? Balalaka? Balalaka. A Russian stringed musical instrument with a characteristic triangular wooden hollow body, fretted neck, and 3 strings. Show me on YouTube. Duplicate the window. Paste la. Okay, yeah, we've all heard this. Yeah.
For the middle of the song, this rumbling mandolin-style bass thing.
Okay.
All in all, the song is this achingly dramatic 6-minute ballad, by its end straining under the weight of Sargent's deathless solo. And McCulloch's haunted la-la-las. What the song is about is up for interpretation, though he has implied links with divinity, predestiny, and other high-minded concepts. For the most part, McCulloch isn't telling. I never think about too many specifics. When I write lyrics like The Killing Moon, it sounds vaguer than it actually is. I always think, this is the meaning. I never really tell people what the meaning is to all the songs, because that surely spoils their journey.
I like that. I want to read the lyrics. Under the blue moon I saw you, so soon you'll take me. Up in your arms, too late to beg you or cancel it, though I know it must be. The killing time unwillingly mine, fate up against your will. Through the thick and thin he will wait until you give yourself to him. That sounds religious. In starlit nights I saw you, so cruelly you kissed me. Your lips a magic world, your sky all hung with jewels. The killing moon will come too soon. Fate upon against your will through the thick and thin. Okay. Up against your will through the thick and thin. He will wait until you give yourself. Okay. There's a lot of repetition. It does seem like they're talking about God or Jesus.
Surely
Or Muhammad or King David or Moses or Abraham, Mithra.
spoils their journey.
Echo and the Time-Traveling Bunny, 1984 chart performance breakup, and Donnie Darko. Song Lips Like Sugar, Echo and the Bunnymen. I love Donnie Darko.
Released in January 1984, despite McCulloch's claims of it being the greatest song ever, The Killing Moon only managed number 9 in the UK charts.
Pretty good.
Fate up against your will.
One place lower than The Cutter. Ocean Rain disappointed too, entering at number 4 before slipping further down the chart. But it was their first album to enter the top 100 of the Billboard album chart, peaking at number 87,
nice.
kicking off their American flirtation with the band. That would continue with 1987's Lips Like Sugar. And their cover
Another one of those bands that has that voice is The Cure and the Smiths.
and their cover of The Doors' People Are Strange on the Lost Boys soundtrack.
Oh!
People are strange when you're a stranger.
Critically, reviews were
Y'all, I've heard that. I had that soundtrack. I loved that movie. And I had the soundtrack. I heard the Echo and the Bunnymen version of People Are Strange before I heard the Doors version. Wow. I've heard them before. That's so crazy.
People are strange when you're a stranger.
Critically, reviews were mixed. While the UK rock press had adored their previous 3 albums, Ocean Rain was met with confused shrugs. Pre-release, the Bunnymen's management had sent out a statement from McCulloch in his tongue-in-cheek arrogance, claiming that the record was the greatest album ever made. 5 years in, and critics were sick of his constant hyperbole. Enemies Bieber Koff wrote, Ocean Rain accelerates the unseemly slide of a once witty and occasionally inventive pop rock group into the swamp of pomp. Rolling Stone summed it up in their 2-star review as too often a monochromatic dirge of banal existential imagery cloaked around the mere skeleton of a musical idea.
That's harsh.
There were positive reviews as well, but for the most part, the romance with the press was over. Drummond would leave as manager before the end of 1984 to start his own aspirations of pop stardom in various guises, all leading to the KLF. Despite having released 4 albums in 5 years, aside from a best-of compilation, the Bunnymen wouldn't release another one until 1987. Their self-titled album, nicknamed the Grey Album by McCulloch due to its bleak cover and end-of-days mood of production.
5 albums? No, they say 4 albums in 5 years? That's a lot. Like, you gotta go away to make them want you to come back, right? I think taking 3 years off was good. Did it come with results? Let's see.
Would further their success in the US, but drive the band further apart amid drugs and alcohol. By this point in 1987, their former acolytes and rivals, U2, had just released The Joshua Tree and were unrivaled as the biggest band in the world.
Yeah.
A position that the Bunnymen could have held if they just wanted it more. McCulloch ended up leaving the band in 1988. The Bunnymen carried on without him, replaced by ex-St. Vitus dance frontman Noel Burke, to decreasing interest from anyone but their faithful. Though McCulloch would
Wow. I gotta give it to the other guys in the band. They tried to keep it going. To replace a lead singer, that's not easily done. AC/DC, Fleetwood Mac, I guess, technically. Who else? Leonard Skinner, sort of. Well, I guess, I don't know. I don't know if I would count, Queen, technically, although they don't. I don't know. I don't know how you would categorize that. It's different, though, right? When a band starts doing reunion tours with a different lead singer, that's different than like when the band is in their prime and they switch singers. Okay, moving on.
Noel Burke, to decreasing interest from anyone but their faithful. Though McCulloch would return in 1997, the 80s were long gone. Time has been kind to the Killing Moon and Ocean Rain, having not been weighed down by the dated synths of the 80s contemporaries.
Right.
Now, it's timeless. The album is now considered to be the Bunnymen's essential record, while The Killing Moon has become one of the definitive songs in the post-punk canon.
Come to mention it, I am shocked that it didn't have a bunch of synths all over everything. So many people fell into that synth thing. I think they had some keyboards on their stuff, like I remember hearing an organ on one of them at least, but not like these other bands. That is wild. I just realized that. Wow.
Killing Moon has become one of the definitive songs in the post-punk canon. It went on to gain a new generation of fans when it was used in 80s nostalgia movies, Grosse Point Blank and Donnie Darko.
Oh.
At least on one occasion, McCulloch has implied that Richard Kelly's twisting time travel teen drama was inspired by the song itself. As the plot revolves around an ominous bunny man, it's not that big a stretch. I'd mentioned somewhere that The Killing Moon was about predestiny, and he wrote the whole fucking film about it. Cheeky bastard. He gave us this pittance one-off fee for the use of the song, saying it was just a little indie film. but forgot to
was.
mention that Drew Barrymore was behind it,
Oh,
who had
right.
more money than Howard Hughes. Great as
That's
it
true.
is, he should at least have given us a credit for the idea.
Wow. Ian continues with his great attitude towards others, but seriously, I'm shocked that, I've seen Donnie Darko several times and I really enjoy that film, but I don't even remember that music. I don't remember hearing it, but I guess I did. Wow.
Just like Richard Kelly, loads of bands have taken bits of Echo the Bunnymen for their own, whether that be with diverse covers from the likes of Burning Airlines, Aha, Ghost, Nouvelle Vague, Idlewild, Lagwagon, and Pavement, or the various indie-leaning bands that have incorporated string orchestration into their grand-scale anthems. Arcade Fire, Coldplay, The Killers, Flaming Lips, Verve, Blur,
All of them.
and even Radiohead.
Yeah.
And this is to say nothing of their enduring influence on the dream pop, shoegaze, and post-hardcore genres. Echo and the Bunnymen never made it to the stadiums of their contemporaries. In a way, it's sad that the group never made that final leap toward household name status. But then with a name like theirs, that was never the goal. I was looking at some old photos from the Peel sessions and stuff, and I was like, how the fuck didn't we not only be the biggest band in the world, but the richest? How come we're not married to Miss World? But we did alright. It was just, we didn't want it particularly. It was more fun taking the piss, I thought. Taking the piss or not, the gothic majesty of the Killing Moon will live on. Because as long as there are blue moons and starlit skies, winter nighttime walks will always have a soundtrack. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed it, why not give it a like, a comment, maybe even subscribe and hit that bell.
Y'all be sure to go to Trash Theory and like and subscribe. This was great. I'm surprised that having an orchestra on a rock recording is considered an Echo and the Bunnymen thing, because I feel like rock bands were doing that for a long time before them. But maybe Echo and the Bunnymen did it more or a certain way that other people are lifting from, you know? Ian seems like a contrarian. I think that's a pretty common personality for an artist to have. Makes it weird though, because I think they have issues around fame and success. I feel like I just reacted to a video about the Replacements, and they did sort of the same thing. They kind of sabotaged their own success. It's kind of rock. Good for them. It does seem like a lot of these rock bands have issues with success because they feel like they're selling out, or they see a side of the industry that's about money and marketing and totally not about the art, and it can be kind of heartbreaking, you know? Especially when people start screwing you over with legal stuff and contracts. It's heartbreaking, soul-crushing. It feels really unfair. Anyway, this was interesting. Now I know about Echo and the Bunnymen, and I have heard The Killing Moon. I've seen Donnie Darko many times. I love the chord progression, and that was even part of the video. You can't copyright a chord progression. I think it's funny that Ian admits to lifting the chord progression sort of from Space Odyssey, just reversing it, but then he's like complaining about Richard Kelly writing the story of The Killing Moon and like stealing it from him. Dude, you could say that about any song with lyrics as vague as that. There's nothing about the lyrics of that song that make me think Donnie Darko. You know what I mean? I don't want to get negative. I just question that version of Ian, because everything we're hearing is stuff through the press, and he definitely has an attitude or a viewpoint towards the press when he's communicating to them, so I don't think we're getting the real Ian opinion. Anyway, I'd like to thank my patrons. I'd like to thank my Buy Me a Coffee folks. Thank you all for watching this with me, and I'll see you next time. Later.